I feel overwhelmed.
It's a very exciting moment.
Super excited.
Yeah, it was a complete surprise.
It's important for us to recognize success and innovation in our industry.
And I would love for all the award winners to stand up and let's give them a nice big round of applause.
I think awards are really important because it provides recognition for the teams that put forth long hours and creativity.
Content Marketing Awards celebrates the best of the best. Our judges each year are looking for fresh new ideas that wow an audience.
To thank my amazing team back at Pega. Just such an awesome team, such a pleasure to work with every day. Yeah, we've been on a content journey for the last 3 or 4 years. We get great support from the organisation. We get permission to be innovative and to try and to make the organisation feel uncomfortable.
To think that we can change minds, we can change policy, we can change people's lives with content is very gratifying.
It's actually really awesome for our C-level executives to know that the marketing teams that they're employing are actually really skilled in their craft.
Hello, everyone. We're back. It's Amanda with the Content Marketing Institute. Happy Monday. Thanks for joining me for this Ask the CM World community live stream, where each time we dive into a new topic with an awesome member of our CM World community. And today we are talking about, drumroll please, generative AI, the hottest topic in marketing since NFTs. I don't know. Robert can tell us. So today's live stream is brought to you by the Content Marketing Institute. If you didn't know, we are the leading training and education organization for all things content marketing. You can head over to contentmarketinginstitute.com for all kinds of educational content and resources. And I wanted to let you know that we are now accepting entries for our 2023 Content Marketing Awards, which is the largest and longest running content marketing awards program in the world. And there's nothing that we love more than to recognize and award content marketers for all of their hard work. So we would love to see your great work that you did this past year. You can head on over to contentmarketingawards.com and submit your work today. We would love to see it. All right, as you are joining me today, if you've been with me before, you know the drill. Give me a virtual wave, say hello, let me know where you're joining us from. If you have any questions or comments as we go along, which I have a feeling we will have a few, please be sure to drop it into the comment section below. So let's get the ball rolling by asking the question of the day, which I might have asked a couple weeks ago when we talked about this, but what are you using AI in your marketing? And if so, what are you using it for? How are you using it? We'd love to hear from all of you exactly how you're incorporating it into your day-to-day work. And it always makes for a more engaging live stream if we hear from all of you. So please feel free to comment or ask questions. All right. Do these daily developments in artificial intelligence have your head spinning like they do me? Are you confused or unsure what the constant changes mean for your marketing efforts? Well, you are not alone. And today, hopefully we get a little bit of help to help us figure this out for right now. So joining me today, I mean, he really needs no introduction, but Robert Rose is the Chief Strategy Advisor here at CMI. He's also founded and runs the Content Advisory, the consulting group for CMI. He works with all these big companies like in the Fortune 100. He's got a couple of books he's written. You can see him each week right here on his weekly news live stream where he tells us every week what we need to know, especially in AI lately. So you should be sure to check that out on Fridays. So Robert, you pretty much do it all, right?
Well, I'm busy. There's no doubt about that. I'm not sure about doing it all, but I'm definitely a busy guy. Yeah.
Awesome. So as we go along today and you have a question for Robert about AI and marketing, please feel free to drop in the comments. Right now, I see we have Tori watching from Bloomington, Indiana. So thanks for joining us, Tori. I love to see it. All right, Robert, let's get started here. As I said, we all know there's new developments every single week in AI, which you cover every week basically on the news here at CMI. So can you kind of give us a quick rundown of maybe some of the most important developments happening now, or at least, you know, what you are watching and that marketers need to be aware of?
Sure. Yeah, it's been a hot minute, right? It's been, let's see, it's been 45 seconds since we talked about AI, so we need to talk about it some more. It is a hot topic, and it is an especially hot topic. You know, what's funny is that what's going uncovered is a lot of the development and innovation of AI that isn't generative AI, right? And there's a lot that's happening there in the marketing and measurement space that is actually arguably even more interesting than some of the things that are happening in generative AI. But because we are also focused on content, we tend to think about generative AI because it is ultimately, you know, basically looking at the thing that we do every single day. And so I'm looking at three things right now. I mean, it's changing fast, and so those three things could literally change in the next few hours. But um, the three things that I'm really focused on right now is one, hoping to dispel to whatever mouthpiece or platform I have to stand up on, to hoping to dispel some of this fear. This, so I constantly see in my feeds this whole thing about the bumper sticker, which is AI won't replace you, but somebody using AI will, which I think is just a silly, ridiculous, fear mongering bumper sticker that I hope that I have some voice in helping to dispel, because it's just not true. But having said that, there is a lot of efficiency to be gained. There's a lot of interesting things that are happening with our ability to create content, do research, do the rewriting of some of the things that we do with AI tools that are really disrupting how we actually do our work. And I think of it much like we saw technology disrupt digital photography. I see how the internet and research was disrupted in the early days of that. And going all the way back, we can see these disruptive, sort of fundamentally transformative technologies really disrupting the ways that we do our creative process. And I absolutely believe that great writers, good content creators, great content creators will be made better with AI and not necessarily be replaced. But the question is, and this is the focus of that first thing that I'm focused on, which is not how it's going to replace us, but how it is going to change us, right? Where are the opportunities for it to change us and enhance what it is we're doing rather than sort of replace what it is we're doing? The second thing that I'm thinking a lot about is the idea of where generative AI is now in the terms of differentiating content. So the Copyright Office has just come out lately and said, look, anything that is purely created by generative AI, you don't own. It's open. It is a open domain, and you don't own it. So the copyright is not there. So anybody can, if you're out there proudly, loudly creating things with AI, just know that I can take it. Anybody can take it. And so thinking about the kinds of content that are most appropriate for AI to help us with right now until these things get settled is a really important thing to think through. And then the last thing is, where are the technologies and tools that are really helping us and starting to differentiate them against, because the amount of hype that it has right now, you can be sure that there will be either tools that don't do what they say they're going to do, or do things in a way that are kind of nefarious, right? Those things are just coming, like they did with the early days of the internet. And so we have to be really mindful about the tools that we're using, and are they truly using a large language model? Which language model are they using? How are they using it? Can they adopt to our language model? Can we put our thumb on the scale so that it helps us create more content for our brand more effectively? So the tools and discerning which are the real valuable tools to help us enhance that process are incredibly important. So those are the three things that I'm focused on right now.
If you're just joining us, Robert's here. We're talking about AI, specifically generative AI. We have Andy also joining us from Indiana, Christopher from Nashville, Melissa from Salt Lake City, and we have Irem from Munich and Jennifer from Ontario. So thanks for joining us. If you have a question or a comment, feel free to drop it down there below. You mentioned tools, Robert. Clearly they're exploding on the scene here. And like you said, not all of them are legit or going to be legit. So if I'm a marketer looking to use AI tools, what should I be considering if I'm going to vet a specific tool?
I think the first thing that you have to ask is, like with any technology, is, one of the challenges that we've had with, marketing departments have had with technology, full stop, is that we chase the feature and have that set our strategy rather than setting a strategy and have us go find the technology to help facilitate that. And that's true for digital asset management and content management, and marketing automation, email and analytics and all these things. We look at the big, bright, shiny featured object and we go, ooh, how do we make a strategy to make that work for us? Because we feel like we're behind. And then we get wrapped up in this technology instead of trying to be better at the thing that we really need to be better at, which is, of course, creating great customer experiences. And so very much like I would advise for any technology is figure out where the enhancement of content creation for generative AI fits best into your process, your particular team's process or your company's process. And we actually wrote a little bit about this, about where we see it fitting in most optimally. And the key there is that we see it fitting in really optimally in what I call constructed content versus created content. So if you think created content is the stuff that we're going to differentiate, our blog posts, our white papers, our ebooks, our brand content, the things that we really want to put care and attention and human value in, those are sort of the created content. The constructed content is the stuff that we still have to do every day, right? The webinar abstract, the summary of the white paper, the summary of our event, the summary of a big piece that we're doing. That's where AI can really fit in. It can help us rewrite those things. It can help us construct some of those things. And so where does that fall in your process, right? So it's the derivative content from some of the more differentiated content that you create, right? So you create that wonderful podcast. Well, now you need a summary of the transcript of it. AI is a perfect candidate for that kind of thing. So when we start thinking about that constructed content, the derivative content that we spend so much time on, that's where we can see the immediate benefit. So if we start looking at that particular part of our workflow, we can go, great. Now we can look for a tool that, one, can help us do that. Two, can learn over time our ideas. Because remember, ChatGPT is literally using the entirety of the internet and only the entirety of the internet to actually learn from and provide content. What we want is a learning model and a tool that actually adopts to our ideas, our style, learns our jargon, learns our acronyms, learns our tone, editorial, all those kinds of things. So start looking for tools that actually can start to build in the idea that it's going to start providing you content that is actually tonally, editorially optimized for your brand. And if we start looking for those kinds of tools, now we've solved two problems. One is consistency, and the second is the idea of it helping us construct this sort of derivative content that we need to create every day.
And one of the issues because of that, you're saying just, focusing on derivative content is because of the copyright issue, right? Which you mentioned at the top with AI generated content. So basically, are you suggesting, how marketers use these tools is using it for the derivative and not for the actual thought leadership pieces because of the copyright issues?
Yeah, that's one thing for sure. I mean, it's just something to be conscious of, right? I mean, and by the way, I don't think that's going to get solved anytime soon, right? Because there's going to be all of these different flavors of, well, what learning model did this and how did it scrape content here? And did it actually scrape content, or is it actually just creating from, and so all of these things will get visited in lawsuits and policy, and but it's not going to happen anytime soon. So it's going to be some time before there's any sort of settled idea around this copyright issue. However, what I really believe is, I see a lot of the tools out there that are like, just mechanize your blog post creation, mechanize your white paper creation. It's magic. Just put it in and boom, all of a sudden you have blog posts. And it's like, from my perspective, it's like, well, why would I want to do that? But, I don't look at creating blog posts or thought leadership or any of that I don't look at that as drudgery. I don't look at that as something that I want to automate. I like creating it. I want to put my heart and soul into this. It's part of why I do my job. And so if you're looking at blog posts and your need to fill the blog with posts as sort of like it's the term paper I have to write every week and sort of to get my A grade, well, then we need to question the motivation of why we're creating this content in the first place. If we're really just trying to automate some creation of a mechanized blog post idea, then why do we even have a blog anyway? Right? Why do we care? So to me, it's more of a motivational thing because the value, I believe, part of the value is what we put into it, what we as humans put into the blog post, the white paper, the brand content, the podcast, whatever it happens to be. That is what is differentiating is the fact that we created it. And so to me, it's more of a motivating factor than the copyright issue is why would I want any machine to, I don't want to automate that. That's up to me.
Right. So, we have a question of the day here. What are some AI tools that you are experimenting with? Andy says so far she's just finding that Chat GPT is her best option, but she hasn't found others that are quite as good yet. Corinne says, I like the difference between a handcrafted piece of furniture versus mass-produced by IKEA. Yeah. That's a really good
Exactly. Yeah.
Really good example there. All right. So there's a lot of issues going on around AI. So is it too early for marketers and brands to start setting policy or governance around their team's use of AI and content creation? And what do they need to consider when making those policies?
That's a great question. I love that question. And I think the answer is generally yes, that it needs to, as part of, one of the things that we talk a lot with clients about are standards, right? Standards, guidelines, playbooks, right? As a piece of this. And it all stems from this idea that, and here's your tweetable moment, right? Which is, 90% of content strategy has really nothing to do with content. It is all about the communication, the standards, the governance, the idea of our collaboration with all of our colleagues across a business, whether it's 1 or 3 people. That's really the heart of a great content strategy. And so when we think about standards, we often will create standards for persona development or SEO or our taxonomy or the way, what is a campaign versus an initiative? What is an ebook? What is the definition of an ebook in our business? What is the definition of a white paper? What is the difference between an article and a blog post? So all these things need standards and the idea of how we create those standards for part of our content strategy. And so our use of AI should have a standard. It should have a corporate standard, a governance, and a way to use it, a playbook, if you like, of how we're actually going to leverage AI in terms of the creation of our content so that everybody's on the same page, right? So that everybody is really understanding that, yes, the tools can be exponentially helpful, but we want to make sure that we're conscious, at least, and contemplative at best about our use of it, how we're going to use it to best further what it is we're trying to do. And I think having that governance standard, and you're starting to see it now from some of the publications out there that, their use of AI and how they'll do it for news stories, et cetera, et cetera. I don't necessarily know that you need a public mission statement like some of these publications, but you absolutely do need internal governance guidelines about how to use the AI technology in a way that's going to benefit your team the most, as well as protect the business.
Andy's asking this, and I think you kind of touched on it in your news, but I don't see an answer for the question about what percentage of piece of content needs to be original. I think it was like versus AI generated for copy. Wasn't it like a case by case basis?
Yes, Andy, there is no good answer for that right now. I mean, there's not a good answer for that right now. The Copyright Office basically punted on that. And you can see why, because it's really hard to figure out. It's how many grains of sand in a pile, right? I mean, because how much do you need to remove from a blog post before it becomes yours, or how much do you need to change before it becomes yours? It's a really unsettled question. And what the Copyright Office has basically said is that if AI is a co-author on your, and you disclose that, and we're all so good at disclosing things, right? I mean, especially in this country, we're great at disclosing things. Not, but anyway, what the Copyright Office says is basically, if you disclose that your co-author on a piece is an AI assisted bot, well, you have to disclose which parts are authored by it, and that segment of that piece would not be copyrightable. Great example of this is, you can see this there was just a contest done. I think it was by forgetting which brand off the top of my head. They just literally did a contest where you could Coca-Cola, and they did where you could go out and use AI to create these images, and in the images would be the Coca-Cola brand and all of the images, et cetera, et cetera. And in the T's and C's, what you saw was everything in that. They were basically saying, we don't own anything in these images that would basically, be created by AI, except the marks, except the Coca-Cola logo, except, if it's a shape of the bottle, the things that they have already copyrighted or trademarked. And so there's not a good answer for that right now in terms of the percentage of how much you need to change before it becomes yours.
And here's a question I think you touched on it at the beginning there was, how will ChatGPT change content strategies around search? Should we stop focusing so much on content discoverability versus SEO or keywords, Google, because audience will shift to that ChatGPT to get what they want to know?
Yeah, that is another hugely important question. And I think one that's, Microsoft and Google right now are grappling with big time. And to me, where my head goes is, and this is where I've been spending, I guess if there's a fourth area that I'm just starting to really dive deep into, it's one of the things that is true about all media is one of the things that we do is that we, as humans, this is something that humans do, is that we bring our old eyeballs to any new medium that comes along. This is a Marshall McLuhan thinking. And so the classic example is, think about the internet. When it first emerged, what did we do? Well, we brought our print eyeballs to it, right? So we called things web pages. It was below the fold. It was, how many pages, how many hits did we get? And so we brought the old publishing mindset, the printed publishing mindset, to the internet. And in many ways, it still is a legacy that we have today. And so here, I think one of the old mindsets that we're bringing to, that we naturally bring to AI, is we look at a large language model that the AI is using, and we think of it like a search index. We think of it like, okay, Google went out and spidered the whole internet, and then boom, it's actually, when you do a search, it's going into the index and finding all the relevant pieces based on a keyword search and returning all those things. And in fact, a language model is very different from that. It's a very different construct. This is why there's so much confusion and, quite honestly, anger about, the AI is going out and scraping all my images and scraping all the things and then putting little pieces of. That's not how AI works. That's not how a language or an image modeling learning model works. And so we're going to have to get our heads around that, because the way that search will behave using a large language model will be different. When I go ask for what's the best Mexican restaurant in town, it's not going to go find the keywords that match that and pull up a bunch of things. When I use AI types of interfaces, it's going to go make an opinion, and theoretically it'll go, well, here's what everybody in Los Angeles thinks, here's what everybody in Pasadena thinks, here's what everybody in Glendale thinks is the best Mexican restaurant in town, and provide those attributes to it. So it's going to be a very different experience for search. The question becomes, how do we optimize for that? How do we become the answer, right? And that is a very, very difficult question. The one thing I do know is that the way we become the answer, sort of philosophically or thinking like that, is that we provide the best answer. In other words, there is a renewed pressure for us to get great, high quality, truthful, evidence-based content into our repositories, because if any answer is going to be considered great or true, et cetera, it will need to be us. And so there's actually a higher pressure now for human created content, more current, more topical, more accurate, more truthful, more inspirational, to actually become the search result that ChatGPT or some search engine using ChatGPT will use.
Oh, am I? Okay, here we go. Sorry, I was having connection issues. Am I here?
You're here. You're
All
there.
right, good. John is asking, could AI detection tools provide a solution to the copyright issue and any potential downranking from Google, et cetera, in search? Hello from London.
Hello, London. I miss London. I love London so much. I don't, there will definitely be attempts at that. And Google has already kind of said that would be sort of a down, it would be the idea of, where the ChatGPT or AI generated content could be a signal that they would use in terms of ranking. But I think that's a war of attrition that just, it's a very much like the deep fakes, right? So I find fascinating how, especially this is another Microsoft kudos to them for developing this process. I love how they're approaching the idea of detecting deep fakes. What they're not doing is saying, we're going to develop technology to spot a deep fake. And the idea is that you just can't keep up with that arms race, right? It will always get better, and then you'll get a little better, and it'll get a little better. And so that's ultimately a never-ending chase. And what they're doing is rather saying, what we're looking at is technology that certifies human-based content. In other words, you get like a little round, icon, or you get some sort of certification that this is pure human-based content that is certified as such, thus that everything else becomes assumptive, right? In other words, so when they look at deepfakes, this is certified human-created content with no deepfakes. Great, it's now certified. Everything else then becomes suspect. And I think that's the right way to start to think about it, is how human-created content will start to become truly the differentiator, and we will start to see that become certified rather than trying to find the fakes.
That's interesting.
And fakes is not the right word for it, right? Because
Yeah.
even that is pejorative, and I don't mean it as such. It's fakes. It's not fake because it is actually creating content, but it is AI created, not human created.
Right. So let's get this last question in here. Iram says, her feed's packed with posts like, use this ChatGPT to write this content. I think it is also leading to a big misconception around AI tools replacing content marketers. Here, let me pop it out here. In my opinion, there's still a lot of work to do with whatever content ChatGPT creates. At what stage do you suggest using ChatGPT in the most efficient way?
Yeah, I come back to my my idea about using it as the derivative content, the content that we have to construct. And that's where, when you see these stats like 30% of all savings, 30%, will destroy 30% of jobs, which I can't stand, by the way, but all that stuff, I think it actually enhances the skills of the writers and content creators. I think it's actually going to put new focus on more writers, better writers. And I have a whole thing on that, but I know we're getting close to time. But the key there is, to me, it is about where can I, as a content creator, be more efficient? Just like when digital editing came along, right? It didn't make editors go away. What it means is that we can make editors more efficient and more creative using new tools. And so for now, where ChatGPT is, with ChatGPT 4 being the most current version, to me, the most obvious sort of enhancement or efficiency creation, and I'm using it every day, is for that derivative content. So I write a white paper and I go, great, I need a summary of that. And I'll have ChatGPT write a summary of that white paper that I just wrote. Or I'll have it write a summary, or give me an instructional sort of summary of, what did this podcast say? Get the transcript and say, give me a summary of this podcast transcript, because I don't have time to read all of that. So the time savings and the efficiency in terms of content that's constructed is a great place to start with this. And then start thinking, okay, great. Can it help me rewrite this sentence to be a little clearer? Can it help me rewrite this thing to be a little more simple? And those kinds of tasks I think are also very helpful, very much like a supercharged Grammarly.
Yeah, and I've used it just a little bit, but I'm trying to come up with social posts and I'm kind of stumped. So I put it in. I'm sure I'm not using it to a full effect. It just gave me some ideas and prompts to write it differently. I still wrote it. I used maybe a part of it, but I was kind of surprised that helped me sort of like think a little bit differently or say it a little differently than what I'm always saying.
Totally. I mean, I have this tendency to always write in passive voice. I don't know why. I just
Me too.
always do. But so it saves me from, I can recognize it once I've done it. And I go, oh, crap. Well, throw it into ChatGPT and see if it'll make it active voice for me. It's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of potential there. So Robert, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're so very busy. One of the big things you're working hard on is the new classes for the Content Marketing Institute University. What can people expect with your new classes?
It's a new backbone class for 2023, and it very much mirrors the structure of my new book, which will be out in September, which is entitled Content Marketing Strategy. So it's kind of the textbook to the class. So the class will actually be coming out here very, very shortly, and then the book comes out in September at Content Marketing World. But overall, yeah, it's tighter, it's better. These are proven frameworks that we've just seen work in businesses after business, and so I'm super excited about it. It's really sort of the best of the bunch, which is why I used it to create the book. So I couldn't be more excited to launch it when it launches.
Yeah, so head on over to contentmarketinguniversity.com so you can sign up to get our certification in content marketing from the master here, Robert. And I just want to say that if you, Robert covers the news every week. We do a live stream on Fridays at 10 a.m. covering like what you need to know in content marketing and marketing. A lot of it has been AI lately because, like we said, there's so many new developments. So if you really want to stay on top of what's going on, tune in on Fridays at 10 a.m. right here. Wherever you're watching this live stream from, you'll hear from Robert then as well. And then one more little housekeeping thing here for you all. We have a Master of Content Driving Demand Generation event coming up April 26th and 27th. And you can go to cmi.media/driving-demand-gen there to sign up for it. So thank you so much again, Robert. Thank you to all of you out there for all your super awesome questions. We went a little long today, Robert, because you're so great. So I appreciate you taking the time. If we missed any questions, we'll be sure to go back and grab them in the comments and answer them for you. All right, everyone, have a good day. See you, Robert.